Hey designers, welcome back to my e-learning accessibility tips and tricks series. Today we're going to talk about accessibility and the law. I'm going to give you exactly what you need to know as an e-learning developer, with the caveat, I am not a lawyer. And we're going to dive a little bit deep into the weeds if you want to go there with me, so you can really learn what's required under the law and how accessibility is truly defined. If you are working for the government, anything funded by the government, this is critical information that you need to know. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, accessibility and the law. If you work in corporate or privately funded organization that doesn't contract with the government, legally you're probably not required to make your content accessible. Now I'm talking about legally here. That doesn't mean ethically you're totally off the hook. If you have people in your organization, which you do, that have disabilities, because 1 in 4 Americans has a disability, you should be making your content as accessible as possible. If you work for the government or anything that's funded by the government or is government-like, you're almost definitely legally required to make your content accessible. And this can be legally a really big deal. Institutions of higher education have been sued by the government for not having accessibility features on their publicly available content. So, all that said, I am not a lawyer. Check with your leadership for accessibility requirements in your organization, but this is a good rule of thumb. If you're a private agency, you're probably not required by law to make things accessible. If you're anything government related, working for the government, you need to be making your stuff accessible. All right, so that's the long and the short of it, but let's go further. So what is the law? The law is Section 508. You've probably heard this. It's a shorthand for accessibility. Section 508 is the part of federal law that's adopted by most states, as well as the federal government, to define accessibility. I've got a few links here for you in the show notes if you want to see more details on that. So states have their own accessibility guidelines as well for the United States, and these states will point to Section 508 of federal law, which is, of course, is the standard that the federal government uses as well to define accessibility. All right, what is Section 508? To give you a little bit of context, there is history with this law. So in 98, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 was amended, and as of 98, federal agencies are now required to make all of their stuff accessible to people with disabilities. And more recently, Section 508 was revised in 2017 as well. So Section 508 is just that part of the Rehabilitation Act that defines accessibility. So again, most states now refer to Section 508 as their accessibility requirement. So wherever you are in the United States, if you are looking to make something accessible, refer to Section 508. Now, what does it require? This is where we get into a little bit of a letter and number and word soup here. But it's, again, good to be familiar with. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines are the actual final word on what needs to be accessible and how to make it accessible. The shorthand is WCAG, and WCAG has extremely detailed guidelines and different levels of accessibility. So, WCAG was developed by W3C. Apologies again for the word soup. It's the main international organization that defines standards for the World Wide Web. These same people that make the internet go and make sure everything's working the way it should also define accessibility. They are the ultimate masters and definers of what's accessible and what is not. So there's different levels, different subsections of WCAG. We're looking at WCAG 2.0, which is the most recent version. Level AA is kind of mid-tier as far as actually accessible. There are things that are more accessible, levels that are more accessible. There are levels that are less accessible. We're going for 2.0, level AA, and there's 4 main guidelines under which the standards are organized. Content needs to be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. All right, I'm going to run through these more specific guidelines really quickly under each of these. And again, I've got a whole series of videos on practical tips for making all of your things accessible. So let's start with perceivable. Here's a list. This is things like provide text alternatives. That means alt text. If there's an image, there should be an alt text for the image. Time-based media. That means videos. There should be closed captions. There should be transcripts. These are alternatives for time-based media. Content that can be presented in different ways. That might mean that it can be reflowed. It can be enlarged. It can be tweaked. And 1.4 there is anything that makes it easier for users to see and hear content. This is all about, usability as well. Usability is going to be a really common theme when you look at accessibility stuff. Next up, operable. Can people actually physically use it? All functionality should be available from a keyboard. You don't have to do the keyboard programming from scratch. If you are using all the available features to you, like the text formatting, like alt text, things that are making your document and your work accessible, it's going to be navigable by keyboard. This isn't something you really have to worry about necessarily. If there's timed content, users need to have enough time to read and use content. Avoid triggering people's neurological disorders. There shouldn't be anything flashing that's going to cause issues for someone with seizures. And it should be really well organized. Again, it's kind of a usability feature, right? There should be ways to help users navigate, find content, and determine where they are. That's good practice for anybody. For any e-learning, it should be easy to navigate. Third up is understandable. This starts with talking about text content. It should be readable and understandable. That means that if you are designing for a general audience, you should be writing for a general audience. It shouldn't be super complex language. It shouldn't be industry jargon that your audience isn't going to be familiar with. It should be plain English as much as possible, depending on the content. There are general standards, design standards for how web pages tend to work that people expect when they use the web. So follow those standards, make your web pages appear and operate in predictable ways, and help users avoid and correct mistakes. So if they accidentally go someplace they don't want to be, do something they don't want to do, help them fix that, and help them by designing in a way that they're going to avoid making those mistakes in the first place. Finally, robust. There's only one sentence here. Maximize compatibility with current and future assistive technologies. So assistive technologies are designed to work with, proper HTML backend accessibility. All of the accessibility features you use are affecting the backend code of your e-learning. If you're using the features of your e-learning software or platform or document or whatever, all of those things are creating a document that has backend HTML coding that makes it compatible with current and future assistive technologies. Again, this isn't something you have to worry about as a developer or a designer. As long as you're using those accessibility features available to you, you are adhering to this. All right, if you want to dive in deeper, refer to the standards yourself. Let's pull these up really quick. Now, I got this link for you in the show notes. Drag this over so you can see it. All right, so here it is, the W3C Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG 2.0. Everything is here for you. It's nicely organized. It describes what all of this means, and they have really nice guidelines on how to implement. So again, as a regular developer, a regular designer, you're not going to really have to worry about really getting deep into the weeds on this stuff. But if you're working with a programmer or like a software developer and they need this information, now you know where to get it so that you can help them out and provide them to the exact guidelines that they need. All right, that's it for this video. Be sure to check out the rest of my series on e-learning accessibility tips and tricks. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe so you can get first dibs on new content.